Namaskar. Today we are going to bring to you a real story of the court case which went on for 70 years in the lower court, then to High Court and Supreme Court of India. That is the historic case of Ram Janmabhoomi temple. And I'm Sangeeta Sharma. I'm a journalist. I cover the Supreme Court of India, and I had witnessed the 40 days of day-to-day hearing in the Supreme Court, in which we saw very interesting arguments, very interesting evidences which prove that the Ram Janambhoomi was indeed, there was a temple beneath it. And today we have with us Senior Advocate CS Vaidyanathan ji. We are honored to have you, sir, in our podcast. And Mr. Vaidyanathan had played a pivotal role in establishing the historical and legal arguments that the disputed site in Ayodhya was indeed the birthplace of Lord Ram and had been the temple before the construction of the masjid there. So he's a distinguished lawyer, and he was former additional solicitor general. And now I will pass on the mic to him so that he can tell about his. Sir, Mr. Vaidyanathan, you were very instrumental in this Ram Janmabhoomi court case. So first, let me ask about you and how did you come in this case and your background, sir? Yeah.
You said I am instrumental. I want to only say
Yes.
we are only instruments of the Lord,
Or the Lord.
and
Yes.
therefore we only try to present to the court what, in fact, the belief and faith of the people are in regard to religious significance, divinity of the place of birth of Lord Ram.
Sir, about you, where were you born? And
I was born in Coimbatore, but you know the name has C.S. Vaidyanathan. In my father's initial is for Kadavalur, and Kadavalur has a famous temple of Rama.
Okay, in Coimbatore.
No, Kadavalur is in Kerala near Guruvayur. It's about half an hour away from Guruvayur.
Okay.
And before we started the arguments in this case, my wife and I made it a point to visit there. And in fact, I told Mr. Parasaran about the temple. And he also went with his son to Kadavalur Rama temple, and both before and after the case.
That is your dedication. That is why. So, how you came into this case that Rama offered you himself, and you appeared for Lord Rama, Bhagwan Ram Lalla himself. So,
That's God's blessing that I was able to appear. I think my wife was instrumental because she was a student of Rashtriya Samskrita Sanstha. And so some of the persons from Rashtriya Samskrita Samsthan, they came to me and said that they would like me to appear in the matter. And that's how I got involved in the case. And then ever since it came to Supreme Court in 2011, I have been involved in it till the final judgment came in 2019.
So, sir, when you started, tell us to our audience that Ram Lalla was made the party. How did Ram Lalla had to come himself and fight his case in the court? So,
see, very interesting.
Yeah.
When the plaint was being settled, in fact, even at that time, came to be involved because
that was in High Court. No.
Before it was filed in the High Court,
okay,
there had been pending matters from 1949,
yes.
But the suit which was filed by Justice Devkinandan, after retirement, he got involved in it. He came here, and he wanted the plaint to be settled by Lal Babu, Mr. Lal Narayan Sinha, the former Attorney General. So I was somewhat close to Lal Babu, and then he got me involved in it. And I even today remember the discussions in regard to why Ram Lalla had to be made a party, and how we should claim that the place itself is divine, and therefore there should be a declaration in regard to divinity and as a deity, the place itself as a deity. That was a claim which we made. Of course, we didn't succeed in regard to place being declared as a deity, but we, Ram Lalla being a deity, and the claim was upheld in that process. See, the fact that a deity, an idol, can be a person with a corporate personality, that I think is well settled. Even a church has been, a mosque has been. Therefore, that
in Indian law or in all over the world?
all over the world, I think,
That
in
is
regard to that.
established.
Yes,
Like
that's
companies.
yes, correct. Therefore,
Okay.
we have the, I mean, a ship, for example, is
Yes.
treated as a person.
Okay.
So, like that, idols have always been treated in India. That has been accepted. That theory has been accepted, and therefore, the deity can hold property. An idol can hold property. Deity can hold property, and whoever is in charge, the trustee, is doing it on behalf of the deity. That has been the law that has been settled. That's why we, number one, it was Lal Babu's feeling that we should make the place itself, because by the very birth of Rama, the place got a great religious divinity, and therefore it was his belief that we should claim divinity in the place itself, and then, irrespective of whether there is a temple, irrespective of whether there is an idol, the place itself is worshipped. That's the faith and belief of the Hindus, and therefore that should be claimed. And it was also our belief that there has been a temple much earlier. People have worshipped all along for centuries. And finally, it came to be established that right from the 6th century, there has been a temple. 6th century BC. That means for 2600 years and more, there has been a temple in that place that has been established in the Archaeological Survey.
Right. So, you said that Lal Babu and so many people were discussed. At that time, this issue, you all were, there was a think tank that you all were so much perturbed that you are not able to get the temple.
Certainly.
It was been 40 years had been passed, 39 years, I think, in the lower courts. 3 suits were already filed. 4 survived. Fourth one was later on taken off. So then, 5th suit was filed by Ram Lalla. That was in 39 years after being in the lower court. So, what was the scenario at that time, sir? All the think tanks, how were the Hindus so disturbed? Can you just tell me about all the emotions of the higher level which were happening and who all were involved in thinking all this?
See, the movement, Ram Janmabhoomi movement had started. That was, and we as lawyers were of the view that this must be given a quietus, because nobody was interested in a flare-up between the two communities, and therefore we examined the status of the suits which had already been filed, and how we can strengthen the legal argument, because we were convinced that certainly this was a cause which was dear to the Hindu people, and that we should be able to make a watertight case and should be able to establish on evidence, and then ultimately have a majestic temple for Lord Ram. That was our dream, and I think it was in the pursuit of that we agreed on certain things, and then the suit.
Who were those we people? Can you name some of the people?
Mr. Lal Babu, Mr. Parasran, Justice Devikinandan, amongst
that time
others.
only.
Yes, yes.
Okay, while filing of the suit.
Yes.
That's
certainly.
great. Okay. So when you filed the suit, that time only.
I was not fully involved in that, except that I was
part of the
yes,
meeting
yes,
and
yes,
think
yes,
tank, you can
yes,
say.
yes. I know what happened during that time, but in the High Court filing and subsequent arguments in the High Court, I was not involved. It It's only after the matter came to Supreme Court that I got involved.
So government also tried to settle it, like Narasimha Rao government. There was meetings, and why was it that it couldn't be settled on
I
mutual?
think in the community leadership, though there were a large number of people amongst the Muslims who felt that they should not be fought out in court and it should be resolved otherwise. I think there were some leaders in the community who, I mean, for whatever reason, political leadership in the community, whatever it is, they were insisting that no, we can't part with it. Ultimately, this is a question of thousand less than 1,500 square yards.
Yes.
If you look at it as a property dispute, that's nothing. It's a
As compared to
yes,
so
the
many.
huge extents of land. Therefore, this was because the mosque was standing in about 1,460 square yards. That was the entirety of the dispute. But I think it was more a question of their ego, prestige, and therefore they would not give up. But I must say that it was very thoughtful of them to have, at the time of making a statement before court, they said, yes, they agree that Ram was born in Ayodhya, but not this particular place.
Right.
That was how they, they were saying that it was somewhere else nearby, but where people are worshipping it as Ram Janmabhoomi, therefore that was it and not here. So the entire dispute ultimately came down to that.
And even the argument was going on that it's a Ram is a mythological person and not a actual one. So for this was also closed by the High Court.
Yes,
I
yes,
think.
yes. I think by and large, I think
They agreed
issues
on-
were narrowed down because of the statements made by the council. And
Yes,
I
as
think
you wisely. And sir, when it came to Supreme Court, it took I think 9 years something in Supreme Court
yes, yes.
total. And but in the last, the day-to-day hearing started when, and then there were, on the Ismail Faruqi case, there was an argument that uh, that masjid is not part of the.
There was an earlier round where that was when the 91 Act was challenged.
Yes.
And then certain arguments came up, including in regard to what you're saying and whether it can be taken over. So the court, the constitutional bench took the view, yes, it can be, but they didn't want to go into the facts. These are aspects which need to be gone into by a trial. Evidence had to be led. Therefore, they said we are not going into the factual disputes, but we are only going into the validity of the act.
So, sir, your argument in Supreme Court, when did it start, and what was your argument?
I see the arguments were led by Mr. Parasara. He had started the arguments, yes. He had started the arguments, and uh, but it was agreed that he would give a broad overview, and then in regard to going into the nitty-gritty of the evidence, some of the facts, etc., the legal aspects he will cover, but the factual aspects, including the evidence, because of his age, and therefore the need arose for some of us to step in and take over some part of the functions, and we divided the arguments among the submissions amongst ourselves. So after Mr. Parasaran led the arguments and laid the groundwork, then we sort of presented the evidence in regard to various aspects, the historical evidence, evidence in the form of treatises, gazettes, gazetteers, various other available
Books
documented material which we could present to the court, plus the oral evidence, and then the archaeological evidence, because much had been argued in regard to. See, interestingly, on the archaeological aspect, they did not want the archaeological survey, and we were very keen that there was an archaeological survey. The case set up by the Muslim community, at that time was that there was no temple at all. And whereas our case was there was a temple, and in fact the mosque had been put up
On the
using the material from the temple complex or on top of the temple. And we were, by and large, the people there in Ayodhya, I think that they must have had, through oral communication from their ancestors, what had actually
Yes.
happened. Therefore, they were very confident that there was a temple, and therefore the survey should take place, excavation should take place. So it was never the case that there was any other Muslim structure earlier.
And
When it was found that there was there were all these walls and artifacts and which showed that there was a temple earlier, a Hindu temple. Then they came up with a very interesting argument that this was in the nature of
Buddhist.
Eidgah,
Eidgah, okay.
Eidgah wall. So the prayer made on the Eid, the day of Eid, to the
That was a
Eidgah.
wall.
Yeah. So that was the wall, which of course is not supported by the
Any evidence.
yes, archaeological evidence. But this was a later argument that they developed.
Main arguments were that according to Sharia, they cannot build mosque on a disputed land, on any other temple.
In fact, there were certain arguments advanced by some other council which we did not want to go into. There were arguments to show that Islamic law does not permit a mosque to be constructed where the land was already dedicated to another temple, or it is it's private property unless you acquire it. And here what had happened was not acquisition, but Babur as the ruler took over the land and then forcefully put up the masjid. Therefore, this was something which Islamic law does not permit. Therefore, that was one of the arguments which was put up. We didn't want to go into that on the validity of the mosque, because that was an aspect even without which we can establish our case.
But sir, your argument was based on the ASI findings.
Our argument was based on one, the fact that people have been offering worship at this place for centuries, and it is a faith and belief that this is the place of birth of Lord Ram, and therefore it has divinity. Number two, it has been so recognized in various Puranas, and Ayodhya has been identified, Ayodhya has been spoken about, Ayodhya has been written about, has been sung over centuries. And therefore, all these will show that now, on the exact place of birth, why would anybody go and worship at this place? Unless this is the place of birth, as believed by the Hindus. Therefore, that was the second. The third aspect was we presented various literature, gazetteer, visitors who had come to this place centuries ago. The Chinese, French, other visitors who had come and visited. Yes, yes, who had come and seen and then written about it. Therefore, that material was presented. Fourthly, we also showed how the archaeological evidence excavation showed that there has been a temple. And from the 6th century, over a period of time, it had been developed. And therefore, the archaeological report actually showed the period from which, from the 6th to 3rd century BC, what was the level, then the Sunga period, the Kushan period, the Gupta period, the post-Gupta Rajput period, then during the Sultanate time what happened, then the medieval and the Mughal, and subsequently. Therefore, the structure, how it had been developed over the period of, say, 20-25 centuries.
So this came down when ASI did the
That's right.
excavation.
Right.
All this strata was there.
All this strata,
All this
yes,
Gupta
strata
period
was available.
and
The metal was available, and aging tests
Carbon
were
test.
carbon dating tests were done, and based on that, it was found that with at each level, laterite and other clay, various other material, the dating was done, and it was shown on scientific proof, scientific material evidence as to how this there has been a temple from 6th century BC. It might have been earlier, but definitely from 6th century BC.
I have one of your recording in which you are saying that William Finch, an employee of the East India Company, traveled across India from 1583 to 1619.
Yes.
And according to his travelogue, he visited Ayodhya sometime between 1608 to 1611. He did not mention a mosque.
Yes. Therefore, this was prior to
Your
construction.
this was constructed in 1520.
Hmm.
So that means there was no mosque by
Yeah,
then.
correct.
So William Finch surely had written about the travels. So same Joseph Tiffenteller.
Yes.
Yes, in 18th century he had also come, and he was the missionary whose writings were translated, and he also noted that in Awadh also this known as Ayodhya, there is a Swarg Dwar, temples. He
How
mentioned
worship was being offered at the Dwar, and therefore, even though there was a mosque, worship was being offered by the Hindus. Because even though it had been blocked off, still people were offering worship and doing arti and all that. Therefore, that showed there was an uninterrupted faith and belief of the Hindus in regard to the divinity, the divine presence, the birthplace of Ram.
So even when the dispute was going on, the millions of people used to visit Ayodhya and the tented
Yes, and they used to and parikrama. They will do the parikrama.
Yes,
They will go and offer worship. They will do the parikrama. Therefore, they will go to the river and then come there.
Sir, on that day when the order came on 9th November, I was one day before in Ayodhya only, and there was huge, like around 10 lakh people were there, and they were managing that security was there. I thought maybe the security because of the crowd, but that day before the order, they had taken the lot of security was imposed on that area and all over India, I think. So, sir, that day when the order came, what were you doing that day in the morning? In the evening only they announced that.
No. It was a special sitting, in fact, of the court when judgment was pronounced, 9th November.
Saturday. That was a Saturday holiday,
Yes.
and everything was closed.
Correct.
All over India.
Correct. So it was a special sitting, and all the 5 judges in the bench sat, and we were all present. In
But
fact,
sir, you came to know one day earlier.
yeah, we came to know one day earlier, and that the judgment will be pronounced. I was here in Delhi. Mr. Parasan was in Chennai, and he was specially flown. And he came early in the morning, I think at 2 a.m. or 3 a.m.
Yes, sir.
He was flown in, specially flown in. And he was present on the date of the judgment.
So, what was your feeling that day?
Certainly, it was I think it was feeling one, for me personally, it was a feeling of relief and happiness, yes, but more a relief because I thought centuries old dispute, it's finally getting resolved, and I think the judgment was quite balanced in the sense that they took care of the need for a mosque, and whatever had to be done, directions were issued for that purpose. I think it was a very balanced judgment.
And the most important, all the 5 judges
Together,
gave unanimous judgment.
I think it was for me, it was a sense of satisfaction when
And for
the
I think
judgment came.
other party also, it was a relief.
Yes,
for them
I think so. I think so. See, I remembered when before we had visited Ayodhya earlier, and my wife and I, when we had gone along with Mr. Yogeswaran and some of the other members who have been involved. When we went, my wife actually cried when she saw Lord Ram in a kind of a temporary
yes.
structure. So on the day of judgment, for me, I felt okay. Now we are going to have a proper temple for Lord Ram. Therefore, that was a big relief for me.
And I also saw so many poor people. They come, used to like weeping
Yes.
to see. They're almost whenever you go to a temple, there are tears in your eyes.
Yeah.
Otherwise, also.
Yes.
But seeing Lord in this
Yes.
bad situation,
Yes.
it was very. So, sir, so this judgment, which you feel that it has been taken care of all your requirements, what you wanted to prove, and
I think it has. See, the amount of effort that has gone into in preparation. I think the whole team members, so many of them were involved and in giving me, giving all of us. And I think the judgment, enormous effort has gone in. They have uh, studied threadbare all the material that was presented and then summarized it, and whoever has written the judgment has done a
very
fantastic
good.
job.
And sir, these were appeals against those four cases.
Three
14,
judges.
three
Yeah.
judges.
Yes.
The cases of
In the
four
Allahabad High Court,
only
there it was a three judgment.
four suits were there.
Yes.
And in this 14 appeals were there or 16?
See, because number of parties were involved, and therefore various other persons also sought leave and filed appeals. So number may
What
be
are
there,
the
but
appeals?
essentially the appeals were by. We had also filed an appeal. There were cross appeals. The reason was, see, the kind of relief that had been declared by the Allahabad High Court. It was more panchayati.
But
to
so
give
thankfully
to
there
give
was a order.
to give
So that-
one third each to I mean the three parties, one third for persons who were performing the pujas, worship on to the Lord. That was something which they would not even have claimed. In any case, to divide this small area of 1460 square yard into three, it would have meant perpetual problem.
Yeah, it was more problem.
More problems. Therefore, we had to file an appeal, and what Allahabad High Court has done is something which was not even asked for by anybody and could not have been done. I mean, you can declare this place the rightful owner is the Muslim community or the Hindu community. But where is the question of dividing it in this process arise? Therefore, we had also had to file an appeal. Therefore, there were a number of cross appeals. That's how the number of appeals went up.
And sir, was there at any time between all the Hindu parties were also amongst each other in the court also? The Nirmohi Akhada was the same.
Nirmohi Akhada, unfortunately, had a claim which was quite inconsistent with the claim of Ram Lalla. They said that we have been looking after the temple, and therefore we are effectively the owners. See, any person who is in the nature of by Pujari, Archaka, they can't claim right adverse to the interest of the deity. That was rather unfortunate, but sometimes, some persons, the problem is in all the places of worship, not just Hindu place of worship, even Christian and Muslim. When interests of property and income are involved, there are such claims made, and that's unfortunate. And that's how I feel better sense could have prevailed on Nirmohi Akhada. They should not have made a claim adverse to Ram Lalla.
But sir, Nirmohi Akhada had a slab outside that. So that means their temple was different, basically. And you were claiming that inside portion is yours.
No, Nirmohi Akhada also were claiming to be worshippers of Ram Lalla.
They were just.
They were claiming that they were performing the pujas to Ram Lalla.
That was outside.
So because this place was barred, was not available when the masjid had been put up, So another structure had come up. So they were offering puja. But that doesn't give them a right to claim something which was, when they say that they were doing it to Lord Ram, then you don't claim something which is adverse to the interests of the deity.
Right. But sir, the day on 22nd December night, when the murtis were shifted to the central dome, was it the same murti which was on the slab outside, or which the Nirmori Akhada was pushing, or some other murti was kept inside?
See,
Or
this,
it appeared on its own? This
see,
was it anywhere proven or no?
no, I see.
What is the mystery of that murti?
Murti had come, I think, had been placed and the worship had started. There is no authentic evidence in regard to whether it was a murti which was lying outside or whether something had mysteriously appeared. These are aspects on which the court has not gone into and advisedly did not go into. But I think, irrespective of the murti, see, one thing is clear. In Hinduism, in fact, earlier we were offering worship mainly to the fire, Agni. There is no requirement of a murti, of a deity.
Right, sir.
Our faith and belief is in divinity. Yeah, Lord, Kailash hills, we offer worship. We offer worship to Ma Ganga. Therefore, it need not. We offer temple to, worship to some trees, people tree, where we offer worship. Therefore, snakes, Nagadevata. Therefore, I think Murti is only, I think, to help us to focus. But the faith and belief is that that place is divine because Lord Ram was born. I think similarly, in regard to Mathura, I think the Krishna Janmabhoomi also, faith and belief of the people is that. Therefore, that is an unshakable faith of the Hindus.
So, sir, law says something about the faith and belief? Is there any law for the faith and belief?
See, ultimately, religion is based on what? Faith. Yes, this faith and belief only. Why do you ascribe divinity to an idol? Till the prana pratishtha takes place, it's just a sculpture. The prana pratishtha takes place, and then people have the faith and belief that yes, it's divine. Is, yes. Therefore, that's a law.
What we can think.
Yeah. Therefore, in these matters of spirituality, I think ultimately the courts also recognize
they
that
can't have any answer.
Yes.
There are some things why it rains, why things come. Yeah. You cannot, court can't come into it. Therefore, can't set up any law for that.
That's right. That's right. So, therefore, you can't question certain things. Like faith and belief of the Christians is that it was immaculate conception and Jesus was born. You don't question all that. If you question such fundamental, then you are no longer a believer. You don't have belief in that religion. Therefore, these are some things
like there are something beyond what our senses can perceive and other things. So, okay. So this was, and also that murti, again I am on the murti, when the demolition happened. That time also it is said
that murti was preserved, and then that was the same murti which was kept in the temporary structure. But it is even now kept in the temple, but in a different part. But the main murti is something which has been prana pratishtha, which has been done is different.
This is the report of the excavation disputed site. Just focus this. And so in this everything is there, how many stratigraphy was chronology, architectural fragments, very big.
This is just one volume.
Yeah. So how many volumes were there?
In fact, the annexures, they were in a different two other volumes.
So how many they gave you?
No, we mainly this contains everything. So therefore we didn't have to. Volume 2 contained all the plates, the
Pottery,
all these potteries, photographs. They were all those.
Photographs are in a different level.
Yes, in a volume.
Okay.
Different level as you go down. How there has been, yes, and different kind of material used during various centuries, and therefore it goes as far back as the 6th century BC. So this, I mean, in just
pillar base.
Yes, pillar.
50 pillar bases I think.
So I think a very detailed scientific study has been done with different parts, and then they started excavating. That's what is shown here. And this is the key plan of the structures which were there. And you'll find that how during excavation they found structures of different periods.
How is it? I mean, this is the full Ayodhya map.
No, this is but different. See, they put each one of these
Blocks,
squares, yes,
okay.
blocks.
So
So
they
they excavated only in some parts. In fact, they did not excavate in the main part where the
Ram Lalla.
Ram Lalla was there. So that was
court
done.
had ordered not
Yes,
to
correct,
touch
correct,
that.
correct. So they
So I'm so happy that the Ram Lalla issue has been resolved, and thank you so much, sir,
Thank you.
for giving us this opportunity to see, and especially the people who come from abroad. They just now the flight is also there. It's become so easy to reach Ram Lalla, and I think the economy also of this place will.
Yes.
Be. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.